y'all, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk. Alright guys, so today's topic is what no one tells you about waiting on God. This topic is so loaded, like there's so many different components that we could touch on when it comes down to what no one actually talks about while you're waiting on God. Like there's a lot of people who tell you to wait, like wait on God, wait on Him, trust in His timing, and these are all good things. But it's just as important to know what to do or to touch on those topics that no one really talks about while you're waiting on God. We have 4 points that we're going to touch on regarding what no one tells you about waiting on God. So let's go ahead and jump right into those. I have my laptop down here, so I'm going to be looking down to read them. So the first one is that waiting doesn't always feel holy. People usually expect peace when they're waiting, but waiting can feel frustrating, lonely, or very unclear. Just because you're struggling doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means that you're simply human. I guess sometimes a lot of people expect to feel a certain way while they're waiting on God. Like there's this expectation of feeling fulfilled even while you're waiting before the feeling of actually receiving whatever it is that you're waiting on from God. But sometimes it can be frustrating while you're waiting because we don't know exactly what the waiting period is. We don't know what God's timing is because it tells us in scripture that our timing is not God's timing. So we are working on 2 different time clocks. So it can be frustrating while we're waiting on God that in that time that we're waiting, we're unsure of what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, whatever it is that we're waiting on. And it can also feel very lonely. Like, yes, we are waiting on God, but in that moment while we're feeling lonely is exactly when we should be going to Him for whatever it is, even if it's specifically about being lonely. Like going to Him and just being honest. Like, God, I feel lonely right now. Like, I know I'm waiting on you, but I feel like I'm alone. I feel like I'm by myself in this. Like, I feel like I don't have anyone to go to. This is all real feelings and real things that do happen when you are waiting on God. And there is nothing wrong with that. I have learned that it is okay to feel frustrated and to feel like you're doing this by yourself and to feel like there's no certainty while you're waiting on God, because if anything, those exact feelings are what push you to Him during that waiting process. Because He's always there. He's there with you through the waiting. He's there with you before the waiting, and He's there with you after you've been waiting. So He's waiting for you to bring those feelings to Him, those feelings of uncertainty, of the blurriness that may be there, of the frustration, the loneliness, all of those things. He is waiting for you to come to Him in your waiting, so that He can help you to continue to endure throughout your waiting by giving you whatever it is that you may need in those moments. Going on to point number 2, God is working in the waiting even when you don't feel it. Behind the scenes, God is shaping your character, healing hidden wounds, and preparing what you've prayed for even in the silence. I can definitely attest to the fact that in the waiting process, it seems like God isn't doing anything because maybe we're not open to seeing it, or you're not exactly looking, or you're looking for a very specific thing and you're not seeing that happening. That doesn't mean that God is not working, like it said, behind the scenes of whatever it is that you're waiting on. The waiting process is meant to test you, I feel. It's meant to bring up these things that God is wanting to work on your heart with. Even in this waiting process, God is still working. And so, yes, there may be something very specific that you're waiting on God for. And in that waiting process, He's bringing up other things that He wants to work on, whether it's in your heart, whether it's with other people. Like, He will reveal these things to you during that waiting process to get you to the thing that you are waiting on. Next, we have point number 3, and that is that delay is not denial. It just looks different. So, a lot of times when we don't get I think at least that a lot of times when we don't get exactly what we're looking for, we're just assuming that it's a no from God in that waiting season. Now, mind you, some of those times God could be saying no to whatever it is that you may be asking for in that waiting period. But then there are also times where I feel God is saying not yet. Because like I said before, it's all like God's timing and our timing is completely different. So there can be some things that we are asking for from God that do align with what He wants for us, but not in that moment or not at that time. So just because something is being delayed doesn't mean that you're being denied it. The outcome might not match your expectations, but it will match His plan. Surrendering your idea of how it should go is part of trusting His timing, which is crazy because I didn't even read that part, or I forgot to read that part, and I went into the other section, so it just aligns with everything that I just said. But giving up the idea of how we think something should look or how something should go is exactly trusting in what it is that God is going to do on your behalf. And going into our fourth and final point, it is you're still called to move even while you're waiting. Waiting on God doesn't mean doing nothing. It is about active trust, showing up, serving, building, and preparing with faith while He leads. During the waiting process, I feel a lot of people do misunderstand that this is the point where I'm supposed to just sit and do nothing while I'm waiting on God, which is so far from what we should actually be doing, which is, like the point said, being active in that waiting process, working in faith, serving, and doing what it is that we know we should do, what the Bible tells us to do as believers, to follow Christ's example in being active in our faith, going out and being active in your community or building in your church setting, whatever that may be, to where it looks like you are actively pursuing God, even, sorry, it kind of blurred out. Whatever it may look like, to see that you are actively pursuing God even while you're waiting on Him, just proves to Him like how much it is that you really want Him over whatever it is that you may be waiting on. So that is episode 3 of Let's Talk. I really loved all of these points, and I was super excited to be able to talk about them because of how simple they all were, which it doesn't get better than the simplicity of the gospel for me. Like, understanding the gospel and understanding who God is can sometimes be overcomplicated by people simply because we overthink it when it is so simple. When you dive into His word, you can really see how simple it is to understand everything that He's laid out for us. So even in the waiting process, I do want to encourage anyone who is out there waiting on God, if you're in this period of waiting for Him to do something on your behalf, take these points and just break them down to your level, break them down to understanding and applying whatever it is that you may be going through or waiting on, and allow Him to even minister to you through the points. Thank you guys so much for watching today's episode of Let's Talk, and I will see y'all next week.